Hi, everybody. I'm Pat Hobbs, and I am from East Texas. I am the product of a 5'2" blonde Texas tea sipper, and my dad was a Texas Aggie slash Marine colonel. Yeah. So before Daddy died, he was given this kind of a trumped up award by the Texas Highway Department for his continuous service for building the most continuous trails of Adopt a Highway program. Well, all of his cronies knew that he was dying, and it was just a nice little thing for them to do. But the night before, all the four Hobbs boys were with my dad, and he took us out for Mexican dinner, for margaritas, and we were driving around the UT campus, and my little brother was there with the video camera, and we made our way to the top of the campus at University of Texas, where the tower is. My little brother's doing the video camera going, "Mom, here's Darrell Royals Stadium. Oh, here, Mom, here's the Capitol building. Oh, and over here, if you look over the rooftop, you can see the Tri-Delt House where you were." And about that time, I heard something dripping. Well, it wasn't dripping, it was more of a tinkle. And all of a sudden, Dad gets closer to the camera and he says, "You hear that, honey? I'm doing something I've wanted to do for the last 47 years. I'm peeing on the UT campus." So I guess that Aggie got back at those tea sippers. Well, the following Christmas, the four boys met back at the East Texas homestead for a rather somber Christmas. And Mom was in a really good mood. I don't know whether it was because Dad was gone or what, but she was in a really good mood. And she was extremely generous because she put an extra zero on all those little checks that she put in our Christmas stockings on the mantle. But she had one condition. She said, "I want you boys to be frivolous." Now, that meant don't pay a house payment, don't make a car payment, don't pay your bill. Go out and be frivolous. So my husband and I asked my dear, sweet baby brother, straight baby brother, to join us the following weekend. We were being frivolous. Join us the following weekend in New York City for New Year's Eve in Times Square. Well, it's a once and only once in a lifetime. If you've ever been there, it's a once in a lifetime thing. So we land at LaGuardia, and a friend of ours from Long Island picks us up at the airport, and that's where we found our first detour. New York that day had a 12-inch snowfall, and instead of taking the Long Island Parkway exit, he misses it, and we end up in Midtown Manhattan. It's midnight, they've had a 12-inch snow, the city's shut down, the streets are great, so what do? Well, being frivolous, we rented a handsome cab and took a 1-hour carriage ride through Central Park in 12 inches of snow. Well, now the next night, we're theater folks, so we go down to the Village at the Lucille Lortel Theater where they're doing a production of Falsetto Land. We get there a few hours early, so we go across the street to this nice, lovely restaurant called Prefix. Great ambiance, great food, great gorgeous waiter. He was from South Africa. His name was Antoine. He was 6'2". He was blonde. He was blue-eyed. And he had an ass to die for. Well, we're sitting there being frivolous the entire evening. We have 2 rounds of martinis. We have some ridiculously expensive wine, just being totally frivolous. And at the end of the evening, Antoine comes up to the table and he says, "I'll be right back with your dessert menu." Well, my little brother across the table from me looks up at us in his inebriated state. His eyes follow Antoine down to the kitchen. He looks up and says, "Well, I wonder if he's on the menu." Well, after I picked my jaw up off the table, we stood across the table, we hugged each other. He grabbed my head, gave me a big kiss on the lips, and said, "Mama always wanted a couple of girls." It's true. It's true. So, as I said, we were attending a production of the show across the street, Falsetto Land. If you don't know musical theater, Falsetto Land is the third of a trilogy of shows that was finally put together under the name of Falsettos. It went to Broadway, it won the Tony. But anyway, we had a wonderful, wonderful evening. And the story of Falsettos is about Marvin and Wizard, two men, and they're in love, and one of them is dying of AIDS, that plague that swept the world in the 80s and the 90s. So, to make a long story shorter, thank you, um, we lost Billy Jack about 3.5 years later due to HIV complications. But I always, always, always have that memory of us detouring in New York City. And I have the moral to the story. Always take your detours. Whether it be because of a loss of a loved one, you've missed the Long Island Parkway turnoff, or you've gotten distracted by admiring a 6'2", blonde, blue-eyed South African's ass. Always make your detours.